Today I'm joined by Matt Keane, Managing Director of Great Southern Mining. Matt, it's great to have you on for the first time. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, Daniel.
Excellent. So you've just kicked off diamond drilling at the Duketon project, which looks like a key moment for the company. But before we get into that, given this is your first time on, can you give viewers a quick overview of GSM and what you're looking to achieve as a business?
Yeah, certainly. So Great Southern Mining, we're an Australian domiciled, predominantly gold explorer, although we have a little dabble in base metals as well. Most of our projects that we own 100% of are over here in Western Australia, where I'm based. We've also got a very large tenement portfolio in Queensland, where we've got a joint venture with Global Major Goldfields. I call us not necessarily explorer, more of a discovery company. I feel like we've progressed past that exploration phase, and now we're into the ramp-up phase of where we're drilling out resources. So ramping up exploration, and hopefully this is going to be a pretty pivotal year for the company, probably the most active in actually the company's history.
Great. Sounds like an exciting time then. So sticking with Western Australia, it seems to make sense to start by looking in more depth at Duketon, given that's where diamond drilling is now underway. First, can you just set the scene for us? Where is the project and what makes that region so prospective for gold discoveries?
Yeah, our Duketon project sits in a broader area called the Laverton tectonic zone, which is a pretty prolific gold-bearing region which goes over many kilometres. It's a big structural zone. So it's an area where you've got a major gold camp about every 30 or 40 kilometres. So to the south of us, you've got some major mines like Granny Smith's and Sunrise Dam, where you've got an endowment of over 27 million ounces. Just south of us, another company called Genesis has recently consolidated about 8 million ounces in around the town of Laverton. And the Duketon Belt, where we are, is to the north. Duketon Belt predominantly controlled by a company called Regis Resources, who's roughly a $6 to $8 billion market cap company. They've defined about 12 million ounces, and we've got the southern part of that part of the belt, the Duketon Belt, where we're sitting in a zone where there's been very little exploration. The last was done probably in the late 80s, early 90s by a company called Sons of Gwalia, some people may remember, but only very shallow drilling. And in fact, most of the area hasn't really been explored. So, we sit right smack bang in the middle of a zone where, every 30, 40 kilometres, you've got a big exploration or a big gold camp. Ours hasn't yielded that yet, and primarily we believe that's because just the exploration hasn't been done to date. So a really great sort of tenement package in a tier one gold jurisdiction here in Western Australia.
Excellent. Yeah. So the drilling's at the Golden Boulder area specifically. Can you tell us a bit more about that target? What have you already seen there? What is this current program designed to test?
Yeah, so just on that image that's on screen at the moment, we've got two major prospects where we had really great success late last year. We sold a small tenement to our neighbour, Regis Resources, and that funded us to really get cracking with the drill bit. And those two areas were Golden Boulder and Amy Clarke. So Golden Boulder, if you show the next slide at this point. But, so Golden Boulder, we drilled, I think, around about 5,500 metres last year. And we defined an area of 3.5 to 3.7 kilometres of really continuous gold mineralisation on one of many trends which actually host mineralisation areas. We've actually defined to date 3 mineralised trends. We drilled out one of those last year and picked up some really nice high-grade hits. Talking intercepts in the likes of 6 metres from 6.7, some broader intercepts, going up to 9 to 10 metres at a lower grade. But importantly, we're only very shallow here, so really only 100 metres below surface over a really long strike length. So you can sort of start seeing that you're sitting on top of a pretty major discovery. So mineralised from surface, and a lot of old historic workings with the old timers have actually come and had a bit of a pick here and pulled out some high-grade gold, but only tested to 100 metres. And it sits on a major fault zone, which just up the road from us, I think we're around about 20 kilometres, you've got a 5 million ounce deposit called Rosemont, which our neighbour Regis owns. And that's currently down to about 600 to 800 metres below surface. So we're on the same structure in the same rocks. We've got a huge strike length, about the same as Rosemont, but we're only just scratching the surface. So what we're doing right now, obviously a bit of diamond drilling to get some controls on the structure and hunt out some of those gold-bearing structures at depth. And then we're going to come back with an RC rig and do a lot more shallow and moving a little bit deeper drilling and try and flesh out and get a bit of a handle on, just how much gold this area is going to yield. We're certainly on top of a very big system here.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's that combination of the deeper diamond drilling and the RC drilling to build up just an overall better picture of the potential across the whole area.
Yeah, that's correct. And we'll likely flush out a small resource, I think, by the end of the year. Whether that's something we declare to the market or something we use as a foundation internally to build upon and really build up something quite significant here.
Excellent. Yeah. And perhaps we can focus on Amy Clarke a little bit more, because that obviously looks like another sizable target in the portfolio. I've got a slide here that we can perhaps focus on. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. I suppose just for reference context, the previous figure you showed was just down on the lower left-hand corner. So this is very close to Golden Boulder. So Amy Clarke, this one actually surprised us to the upside late last year. We drilled an air core campaign, but drilling into hard rock from surface with an air core rig. And we defined gold mineralisation very consistently, almost in a gun barrel straight line on a shear over 4.7 kilometres. So again, a huge strike length of gold mineralisation, which remains open to the south, but also open at depth. We only drilled down on average here about 50 metres. So again, gold from surface, a long strike length, some really nice high-grade hits, going up to, here's a good example, 8 metres at 6.7 grams, with some broader intercepts, things like 17 metres at 1.4, all shallow and, of course, open at depth and just ripe for more drilling and the chance to flesh out, again, a nice big gold discovery here. And I'll just point out that this is a very infrastructure-rich area, and, for example, this prospect here, or emerging discovery is probably a better way to describe it. It's only 10 kilometres from probably the biggest mill in the region. That's Regis Resources' Garden Well facility, which is to the north, northwest of us here, northeast, about 10 kilometres away.
Good. Yeah, always good to have the infrastructure in place as well, isn't it? So you've also recently completed drilling at the East Laverton project, which you describe as something of a wildcard in the portfolio. Can you tell us a bit about that? It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so East Laverton, it's a very large intrusion. It's showing just in the centre map there as on the East Laverton project. There's a big laid intrusion. If people know a company called Chalice Mining, perhaps, it's a very similar geological target where they found a global scale platinum, nickel, copper resource. We've drilled into something which we believe is similar. I can't say much more because we've finished the hole and the assays are pending. But look, very interesting. And I will point out this whole project, which is a very large tenement area as well, has both gold and base metal potential. So it's a bit of a watch this space with that project there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like some good optionality there. So moving over to Queensland, you also have the Edinburgh Park project, which is earlier stage, but clearly still very large scale. I was interested to see that Goldfields is farming into that opportunity. I mean, what was it about the project that attracted such a well-established business?
Very prospective for large-scale, what I call porphyry epithermal deposits. Of course, Goldfields being a global major, they're chasing something like a 5 million ounce discovery, 5 million ounces plus. It was actually a competitive process, so there were a few of the global majors who were very interested in this project at the time. What attracted them was that big potential for porphyry epithermal discoveries with those rocks coming to surface, a lot of geochemical anomalism, an existing mine nearby, the Mount Carlton mine, which is around about 2.2 million ounces gold equivalent. And the fact there's been very little work done, I think that was the most attractive prospect, that all this smoke and anomalism, but really no drilling at all. So I think all the parties who actually looked at it from a joint venture perspective were just astounded at the limited work that had been done. We partnered because it's going to need, obviously, a very large budget to really explore. It's actually about 1,500 square kilometres, so it needs a lot of capital to explore it. But at the end of the day, under the joint venture, if Great Southern Mine ended up with 25% of a monster gold discovery, that's going to be a fantastic outcome for us.
Absolutely, yeah, a real ground floor opportunity then. So what are the next steps there?
We'll be commencing diamond drilling again. At this stage, likely to be in May, so next month. And we're drilling a really prospective target called Mount Dillon, a favourite target of most of the geologists who have looked at this from several gold major companies. It's a big geophysical IP-induced polarisation target sitting under a lithocap. And these lithocaps, I won't get too technical, but they're a hunting ground for people looking for big porphyry discoveries. So a number of the largest porphyry discoveries in modern times have been found under these silica lithocaps. So again, it's going to be a wild card in the portfolio, but we're really excited, and so Goldfields to get the drill bit turning next month.
Great. So just stepping back from the projects for a moment, can you tell us a bit more about your own background and what led you to the current role?
Yeah, sure. I studied as a geologist, but through my career, I've worked in a lot of different fields in the resources space, from resource estimation, geology, exploration, mining. I was actually an engineer for a few years in the mining space. I worked as an analyst, a resources analyst for a small firm here in Western Australia for about 8 years, which gave me great access to looking at deposits and projects globally, and also a fair bit of background in business development and M&A in the field. So really a resources everything, and in recent times I've been a CEO and MD of junior resource gold companies for around about 5 years.
Cool, plenty of experience then. So finally, when you look across the portfolio as a whole, why do you think now is a great time to invest in or begin looking at Great Southern mining?
Look, I think now's a great time to be in the gold space in general. You've obviously got a strong gold tailwind, and the fundamentals to support gold aren't going away anytime soon, in my view, putting on an old analyst hat. In terms of Great Southern specifically, the gold explorer space is definitely undervalued, so I think you've got great arbitrage to get in on this space, and Great Southern mining is on that real cusp, that real kick. So the biggest return you get in a junior explorer is that discovery phase, and that's right where we're at. So we're on to 2 discoveries at Golden Boulder and Amy Clarke, as we talked about a minute ago. We're very well funded, so we've got roughly $6 million in the bank, so we're funded for all the drilling we're going to do, so we're not coming to the market soon. A really strong technical team, and we're going to be punching out news flow. We're drilling at present. We'll be drilling flat out for the end of the year, so you're going to get very consistent news flow right through the next 12 months at least, and then you can just ride the wave of discovery, and hopefully we end this phase in 6 to 12 to 18 months with a significant gold discovery. And then, given how much infrastructure is around us with other companies and how many the mid-cap miners are consolidating at the moment, it's going to be a bit of an attractive option for M&A. So it's going to be a really exciting time in the next 18 months, and probably the most pivotal in the company's history.
Excellent. Yeah, well, it sounds like a really active period, plenty of drilling and news flow to come. Matt, thanks again for your time today, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks very much. Pleasure to talk to you.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.